obviously the government has changed its approach to computing, hasn't it? It's changing its approach to computing at school. Whereas in the past it's very much operating certain well-known software packages, shall we say. Just quickly tap into your thoughts on maybe getting people to do more coding using Scratch or whatever at school.
Yeah, my fear is that we turn people off from careers in technology by doing that. I've spent all my career pretty much in technology. I'm not a particularly technical person. I mean, I did do some coding way back when, but it was never very good, to be honest. So I am worried that we start to turn off people, the sorts of people who I believe would be really successful. So again, I'd far rather that we go down the route of, I think there is an avenue for that for people who are generally technically savvy and want a technical career path, but I think we also need to get across to other people in schools that technology underpins absolutely everything these days. There's no aspect of our personal lives or work lives that doesn't touch technology. So how do we really switch people on, young people still at school, about the possibilities around all of that and get them excited about some careers?
I see what you mean. Some people like to take cars apart, but most of us just like to drive them.
Yeah.
But on the whole, we all kind of need to know how to drive them, don't we?
Yeah.
So it is those sort of basic skills.
It is, and I find that the people. I mean, it's the same in many fields, but the people who are really truly successful in the IT sphere are the people with great people skills. Who understand the technology and understand the potential of the technology. But generally, it's the ability to interact with clients and employees that make people truly successful. And I do fear that at schools we're not engendering those and promoting those sorts of skills and things, and that's what I'd love to see in the curriculum.
I guess because there is the stereotype of the people who kind of go into the IT roles aren't necessarily the ones with the best communication skills, for example. You kind of need to harness both angles.
We do, and I think the industry needs to sell the fact that careers in IT services companies and in companies in the IT department are not just about technology skills. There's definitely a place for really deep and great technology skills, but there's plenty of other roles as well in and around the technology.
Now, off the back of that, obviously you're a successful woman in IT. Do you still? I mean, there's always been the talk about the glass ceiling and other sort of restrictions on success. Do you feel that that's still the case? Or?
No, I don't. And if you look at the UK market today, so if you take companies like my own, so Atos in the UK is led by a woman, Capgemini, big chunk of Capgemini is led by a woman, big chunk of BT is led by a woman, CA, myself here. So actually there's a phenomenal set of role models out there at the moment on the IT services side. And then when I take the CIO side as well, we have the privilege of working with some phenomenal female CIOs, so Catherine Doran at the Royal Mail Group, Susan Cooklin at Network Rail. And these are, they're not women CIOs, they are just phenomenal CIOs. They're feisty, they're really pushing their business's agenda, they're really active. So absolutely, if you're coming into the IT services market at the moment, there's never been a better time to look at the role models and see there is no such thing as a glass ceiling. I think though there are some constraints, and what I would say is that, and again, it's not necessarily just an IT thing, but the workplace has still been designed around a mentality that you've got to choose between life and work. Right. And I don't think most women are willing to accept that, that it's an either or. Yeah. So, where I think there is a real agenda to be progressed is around redesigning the workplace to really value outcomes and not inputs. It's not about the hours that you put in, it's about the value that you deliver. And I'd rather we spend the time on that agenda than on the gender agenda.
Yeah. and following on from what we were talking about previously about people skills, do you think, it's a stereotype, isn't it, that women have better people skills, but do you think there is an aspect to that?
Yeah, I think there are. And the danger is you do drop into terrible stereotyping, but I think there are some traits, definitely. I think generally women understand EQ innately, and to me, self-awareness and awareness of your impact on others is the starting point, for a whole load of other people-related skills, communication, empathy, all of that. So I think there is a difference there. The frustrating difference to me is that I think if you sort of take a grid of competence and confidence, women are nearly always less confident than competent, and it really frustrates me. You know, I've worked with some fantastic women, and you'll see a job opportunity come up, and you'll see 3 guys put their form in immediately, and you'll see the woman wavering. Oh, do you think I can do it? And it just really frustrates me. You know, guys will sort of look at the bits they can do and you know, downplay the bits they can't do.
Yeah.
Women will always tell you the 3 reasons why they're not qualified for it first, and that frustrates the hell out of me. Yeah, we've got to get better.
Is that a culture thing?
I think it is, and I've got a boy and a girl, and I'm desperately trying not to do the same with my daughter and engender that in my daughter, because you know, I want her to be as positive about her strengths as my son seems to have been from day one. Really.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it is a cultural thing, and that's it. You know, women need to, you know, get out there and shout about the great things they've accomplished, and not necessarily worry about the constraints.
And you were talking about the culture and the way that we work. What sort of things would you like to see change? So to give people the environment that they want to work in.
Yeah. So I think, you know, I still think there is a bit of I think we're in quite a macho phase of the economy again at the moment. So I think, you know, the hours that you put in, yet again, are seen as a valuable thing. You know, we've been through a very hard cycle of the economy. Companies have had to work phenomenally hard to to stay afloat. So I sort of get why that is. But, you know, to me, you know, the fact that you stay at your desk till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night isn't really a good measure of whether you're adding value or not to the organisation. And I want to get us away from that and say, has that person hit their number? You know, has that person done what we expected of them? Rather than necessarily have the input to all the right things.
Yeah, it's kind of like work more efficiently, surely.
Absolutely. And the fact that you're, you know, sat on your iPad at 10 o'clock at night because you've taken 2 or 3 hours off to put the kids to bed, I think that's a great thing. You know, I do find it amazing that when I'm logged on late at night, it's nearly all women who are replying to me, you know, in real time, because they've done the dinner and they've read the story, and then you know, then they're back onto it. And I think that's great. You know, the ability to work flexibly and agile is what we should be rewarding, and the values.
So is that sort of thing do you support flexible working at CSC?
Yeah, we do, and I personally try really hard to. So you know, a lot of it is there's the policies and procedures and things, and that's one side of it. But there's then people's behaviours and reactions to that. You know, so and again, I don't see this as a gender thing. I see this as a more general thing. You know, so I always talk quite openly about, you know, if I'm taking an hour out to go to sports day. I talk quite openly about that because I want people to feel that sort of thing is okay.
Yeah, it's got to come down from the top, isn't it?
It absolutely does. You know, so if people feel that they've got to sneak out to do things like that, that's the wrong sort of value set. I do counter that. I have high expectations of my people, though. So you know, I'm not, you know, soft and lenient around it. I just want people to know that, you know, so long as they deliver, how they deliver is their issue, really.
I have the same opinion. They want to get their work done at the end of the day. They want to do a good job. You treat them like adults and they'll behave. Absolutely. So I think policy and procedure-wise, we're spot on. I like to think that behaviourally, you know, we also support that ethos here. You know, it has been a very tough few years in this marketplace, though, and we're probably not quite where I'd like us to be, as I suspect most companies are at the moment. Yeah. And going back to you and your career, what sort of advice would you give to somebody just out of university on a graduate course to try and emulate your success?
Wow, right, a number of things, I think, really. When I sort of look back of, you know, why I am where I am, there are a number of factors to that, really. I've had some fantastic mentors throughout my career, and you know, I think people look for that one golden person who's going to be the shiny role model for them, and I've found out actually it's far better to have a number of mentors who look at you from different angles. So you know, I wasn't naturally a salesperson, but I had a brilliant sales coach early in my career who really taught me the basics of sales management and how salespeople think and work. I was fortunate enough to work for a lady called Hilary Cropper, who was a brilliant, you know, leading female leader in the IT services market, and you know, she she was a masterclass in strategy. She's one of the best strategic thinkers I've ever had the pleasure to work with. So I learnt an awful lot from her. She wasn't a brilliant operational manager, so I found other role models who I learnt some of those operational skills from. So I think get yourself a set of mentors and do that as a conscious thing is really important. Networking, again, it's one of those things that I just tended to do naturally. But it's amazing to spot people who don't do it and find it really hard. But you've got to get over that. Having a good network is absolutely imperative to being successful. Back to the learning thing again. Never get complacent. Every day you're running up a downward escalator. You've got to remember that. It's just how fast the escalator's going sometimes. But so the desire and the energy to constantly learn is really, really important. And then I think it is the balance of deep skills. Everyone needs skills in whatever it is they're doing. Balanced by really consciously working on your people skills as well. And I think it's those things. I think just the other bits. There are certain roles that I've done throughout my career which, given my time over again, I may choose not to do. But move on quickly from those and bank what you have learned from it. There are certain roles where I've taken away more how not to do's than how to do's. But you still learn. You still
learn through your mistakes as much as through your successes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting the point about mentoring. Do you think that maybe as a new graduate, you're a bit scared maybe to admit you don't know things because you want to be seen as competent, and it can be quite hard to then ask for advice.
And it's interesting, I was having this discussion with some of our graduates earlier in the week, and my view is the opposite. That's the time that you can really ask the stupid questions. If I ask how something works now, I look pretty stupid, but when you're a brand new graduate, that's the time to ask the really crazy questions, I think, and actually the organisation benefits from that as well, because in September and October we'll have 60 new graduates joining this organisation. That is phenomenally valuable to me because I've got 60 bright people joining this and questioning everything, and I want to harness that, because some of them may be naive questions, some of them I'll have been staring at something for 5 years and they'll suddenly look at it in a different way and give me a really great insight. So the message I give to our graduate population, and the message that I would give to anyone joining the IT services industry at this point in time, is exploit that first few years, because you really can ask those questions, and be bold and walk up to people like me and great CTOs and whatever, and really quiz them about what it is that got them to where they are.
You have all your graduates quizzing you now.
I will.
And can I just ask you, your sort of, I'm not asking the exact breakdown, but what sort of percentage would you say are female, male split for your graduates?
It's poor at the moment, and it's been something that I guess I've been involved with a graduate intake, not necessarily here, but my previous jobs as well, probably over the last 15 years now, and we've seen that percentage degrade, but in a bad way. So, and again, if you look across the whole of the industry, that's the case, and I think we're just not getting to girls at the right stage when they're thinking is forming about this being a potential career.
What sort of things would you like to see? There's been various incentives and ideas for getting girls more interested in IT.
I think it's an industry image problem. I really do. My kids are constantly watching reruns of the It Crowd, and if I could uninvent one TV program, it would be that, because to me it plays to every stereotype. Every bad stereotype about the industry, really. So, I think we've got to get into schools and get into universities and get the message out there that, a career in IT doesn't necessarily mean sitting behind a screen 12 hours a day and coding. It can do, and if that's what you want to do, and we've got some brilliant, deeply technical women here, and if that's what they want to do, that's fantastic. But there are also, lots of other careers, around that, that I think, women would find really exciting and interesting, but we're just not getting that message across.
Yeah, I guess it's conveying IT is Facebook, it's YouTube, it's cool and interesting stuff that they're, it's
it's account management, it's sales management, it's so my sales professionals absolutely need to have a deep understanding of technology, because they're challenging a customer to do things differently through the use of technology. So to me, that's still a career in technology, but it's a fundamentally different job to, you know, a programmer or a solution architect or whatever. And we've somehow got to get into schools that, you know, we need all of those. We need all of those types of people coming into this world. You know, the consulting front end, where, you know, you're dealing with a deep business problem and then reflecting that back into a technology solution. Again, you know, they're really exciting jobs. So how can we convey that passion across to people at the times when they're making the decisions? I meet people now, you know, similar age to me, and we talk about what we do, and they say, I wished I'd known that there were jobs like yours out there. You know, but we've already sort of channeled people off into other directions at that point. So lots to do.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Liz, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.